Hey everybody, Riot Mort here, and it's time for the TFT Gadgets and Gizmos PBE rundown. Normally I'd be joined by the rest of the hardworking design team that worked their butts off to make this happen, but there is a lot to go through, and we frankly it'd be a 4-hour video if we all tried to do it in our super long detailed versions. So it's just going to be me today, running through it pretty quick. Hopefully this is just sort of a preview, and you guys get in there on PBE, give it a try, because there's a lot of exciting stuff to look forward to. So yeah, let's get into our 6 set gadgets and gizmos. All right. First off, let's talk about items. There are some item changes, nothing major. No big memorization here, but let's go through them real quick. Deathblade, a little bit too much of a feast or famine item, and especially powerful early. It now just gives you some attack damage based on your star level. This way it doesn't fall off for 3-star champions. It's not overpowered in the early game. Should be a good base AD item. If your champion wants AD, give him a Deathblade. Archangel Staff. Very different item now. Used to basically be hardbound to people with high mana costs, especially high mana costs with then starting mana, so you'd get a massive benefit. Now it's basically a more interesting death cap. At the start of combat, it's not giving you any benefit, but at 12 seconds into combat, it's better than death cap, or it's about the same, and then over time it becomes even better than death cap. So if you're playing a comp that's going to take a while to build up, it's a very good item. Banshee's Claw, nothing too different here. The big difference is now when you stack it, all it does is it increases the power of the shield. So 3 Banshee's Claws does not block 3 spells. But Banshee's Claw will not prevent you from taking a big, 4,000 damage nuke. If you take a 4,000 damage nuke, you take 3,400 damage. It still blocks 1 CC effect though, so otherwise it basically works the same. Hurricane is an example of an item no longer procs on hits, but does grant 15 AD. So it's a good way to give a champion that maybe wants AD, but you don't have a sword, you can give him a Hurricane. So still kind of the same general purpose, just no on hits. Bramble Vest was kind of an awkward item that it was anti-crit and not a lot of armor. We're trying to get all the double items to basically be a lot of that stat. Deathblade, 2 swords, get a lot of AD. Bramble Vest, 2 armor, you get a lot of armor. So now you gain an additional batch of armor, and to compensate, the AOE damage went down a bit. Pretty simple. Dragon's Claw. Dragon's Claw is basically the same thing as it is on live, except the damage went down, but so did the cooldown. So it can proc a little more often. But, let's say you had a single target caster repeatedly hitting a Dragon's Claw, they're not going to kill themselves nearly as quickly. So should be generally good for your team, but not as much of a suicide option. Gunblade is one of the bigger transformations here. Gunblade is becoming much more like its Radiant version. You do not get a shield, but you do heal an ally. So the lowest health ally gets healed, making this a really fun item if you want to do any of the ambulance builds. That's still an option now, so look forward to that. Static Shiv just gets a bit of a buff. Same item, still gives that 50% magic resist shred, but now they also gain some extra attack speed. So you don't necessarily have to have attack speed. This can also make it a decent mana generation item, because now you're getting more attack speed, more attacks, generate mana quicker, so should help it be a little bit better in the caster tree. Jolt Gauntlet, item that really wasn't good unless you already had a ton of AP. So we're just trying to make sure it's a better general use case item. So it comes with 10 ability power on it now. So should make that a little better. Quicksilver is very similar. Quicksilver is the same item, but it now comes with 20% attack speed, making it just a little bit better. If you really want to be CC immune, you don't have to give up all the damage. You get a little bit of attack speed. Finally, Zeke's Herald, Ionic Spark, and Titan's Resolve had their art changed. You can see there they look a little bit different. They are the exact same item. Nothing changed about the item, just the art. And finally, Force of Nature is gone. Force of Nature was always a weird thing in TFT, because in League of Legends it's a magic resist item. Not so much in TFT. So we have replaced it now with Tactician's Crown. It's a much cooler looking item. Makes sense because they still have the crown above their head. And yeah, you still get +1 army size. So 2 spatulas, still very good. I've been calling it Tact now instead of Fawn. We'll see if that catches on. But yeah, get your Tactician's Crown or your Tac. That's it for item changes. As far as system changes go, day 1 of PBE, nothing major. We may still make some adjustments to like roll odds or maybe drop chances, but so far haven't really been necessary because we want you to focus on the champ's traits and set mechanic. So first off, let's jump into the traits. All right, Academy. Academy has 7 units in it. And basically, they have bonus attack damage and ability power. And every time their ally casts, they gain additional ability power and attack damage. And so basically, the more Academy you have, the more AD and AP you get. Obviously, it's kind of like a Spellweaver Forgotten mix, if you will. But you can get a lot of AD and a lot of AP from this. So pretty cool trait. And this is one of the ones that the spatula makes. So you can make a spatula of this, which is pretty cool. I believe. I might have that wrong. Chemtech. Chemtech is pretty cool. The general idea behind Chemtech is like once they start to get low health, they rage out, they activate their Chemtech enhancements, and gain 25% damage reduction, 50% attack speed, and regenerate some of their health every second. And so here you can see it's actually a 3, 5, 7, 9, each time the buff lasting longer, and if you can get to 9, the buff lasts until combat ends, and the regeneration is doubled. These guys use tank items really well because that HP regeneration and DR can make them really insane. Mundo especially is really good with this. But yeah, Chemtech, pretty cool. Clockwork. Clockwork basically gives your team attack speed. The more you have, the more attack speed your team gets. Numbers will change, I believe, but basically the general idea is the later the game goes and the more augments you have, the more attack speed you get. So upwards in the late game, 4-piece can give your entire team somewhere in the neighborhood of like 70 to 100% attack speed. It can be pretty cool. And there is a 6-piece. It's not listed here on the tooltip, but there is a 6-piece chase there. Finally, we have Enforcer. Enforcers stun enemies at the start of combat. They break free after 4 seconds or after losing 30% of their maximum health. That's one thing to note here. This is not a Zephyr. This is more like a stun. Kind of like a Zoe stun in League of Legends, basically, because let's say you have a solo frontliner and you have 2-piece Enforcer and the solo frontliner gets hit with this. They won't move, but everyone's going to attack them once they lose 30% of their health or 4 seconds pass. That'll break. So it's not a true Zephyr. Things can take damage. But if you have the 4-piece, you can get the enemy who has the most health and the one who's dealt the most damage last combat. So it's a good way to kind of slow the enemy down a bit. It's a good splash trait, basically. Moving on. Imperial. Those who remember Imperial remember it was a chance to give somebody close to double damage. Well, this is kind of similar, but basically at the start of combat, the Imperial who dealt the most damage last combat, so kind of gets to be the carry, becomes the Tyrant. The Tyrant gains either 60% or double damage. When the Tyrant dies, if they're like, let's say you have it on Samira dies first, the Imperial who has dealt the most damage this combat becomes the new Tyrant. So unlike Imperial, it can actually pass around. So it's pretty cool. All of these characters can do some pretty decent damage. So it just really depends on who you want to itemize and who you want to make your Tyrant. So pretty cool. Mercenary. Probably one of the craziest new traits. Let's talk about Mercenary. If you remember Fortune from Fates, Mercenary is like Fortune with a big twist. So the way it works is once you have Mercenary in, you have a chest on your bench. You can't sell the chest, you can't do anything, but the chest is the representation of your loot. And you can see it here on the screen. What happens is every time you lose, you roll a dice. Okay, the dice will roll, you'll see an outcome, and let's say you get X plus fish. It'll actually put something in your chest. And so the chest will up the loss counter. You can see it here, the mana bar says 0 out of 12. That's to represent up to 12 losses can go in there. And then it might say like 4 gold has been added to the chest, or a item component has been added to the chest based on what you roll. Kind of like Fortune, the more you lose consecutively, the luckier the dice. And so let's say you start to hit like 8 losses, your dice might roll and it says a force of nature has been added to the chest. So you can actually keep track of what is in your payout. And then when you win, the chest opens up, you get everything inside, get your mercenary cash out, and get a lot of cool loot. And so That's a pretty cool thing to do with a 3 mercenary splash. If you have 5 mercenary, the dice are even luckier, which basically what that means is, let's say you had a 1 loss streak going on, it actually counts as a 4 loss streak. So basically you're just getting higher and higher odds and rewards. One of the strategies you can do is run 5 mercenary for a while, get some big rewards, drop down to 3, and then cash out. So it's a really cool twist. And like I said, the nice thing here is you can actually see what goes in. And if you somehow manage to get 7 mercenary, you get a 3rd dice that every time you win just says, here's free stuff. 7 mercenary can get pretty bonkers. So again, if you were one of those people that really liked Fortune, I think you're going to love mercenary because it's Fortune, but you can keep track of it. You can see what's going on. Other people can see how many losses you're at. It's really fun. Not going to lie. All right, Scrap. Scrap is a crazy trait, really good in the early game, especially when you haven't locked in your items. But basically what it does is at the start of combat, some of the components will randomly transform into full items based on what they have. So for example, if you have a sword on Ezreal and 2 Scrap, that sword may transform into an Infinity Edge, or a Deathblade, or a Bloodthirster. It will not transform into a Bramble Vest, because a Bramble Vest doesn't have a sword component, but it will basically upgrade a component. If you have 4-piece, it'll upgrade 3 components, and if you have 6-piece, it'll upgrade all the components. So let's say you just had 6 item components on 6 Scrap, you now have 6 full items. Then, in addition, everyone on your team, not just the Scrap champions, gain a shield equal to the total number of components on your team after the transformation. So let's say you're level 7, 6 Scrap, and you have 1 component on each Scrap champion. What'll happen is they all upgrade, so now you've got 6 full items, aka 12 components, and then 12 times 50 is 600. Everyone on your team gets a 600 shield at the start of combat. And so again, this can be pretty cool. It gives it extra shield, upgrade items until you're ready to slam them, maybe transition out of it. But pretty fun trait, pretty fun splash. Socialite. If you remember elemental hexes, Socialite is for you. Socialite reveals a spot on the battlefield. You can see it on the screen there. And basically this works exactly like elemental hexes. Every game this spot is different, but it's predetermined at the start of the game. So let's say it's in the front row middle. For every player, it's in the same spot, which means you know anyone playing Socialite this game, there is a spotlight in the front middle. So it's a really good Zephyr target, for example. But you can put anyone in this spotlight, and if you have 1 Socialite, they gain plus 20% damage. If you have 2 Socialite, they gain 5 mana per second. And if you have 3 Socialite, they gain 20% Omnivamp. What's really cool about this is in addition to items. So it's almost like you have a 6-item carry. You can put your carry in here. These do not take up a slot like elemental hexes did. So you can really power up one specific champion if you're willing to run 3 Socialite. So a lot of power there. And again, we always talk about how like 4-item, 5-item, 6-item carries can get nutty. This is one way to make one champion very important on your team. Really make them the spotlight of your team. Syndicate. Syndicate, kind of a really interesting twist off like the old Noble. But basically the way it works is certain allies get 40 armor, 40 magic resist, and 25% Omnivamp. So they become pretty defensive in the ability to heal up. If you have 3 Syndicate, well, it's the Syndicate who currently has the lowest percent health. If you have 5 Syndicate, it's all Syndicate champions. And if you have 7, it's your entire team gains 40 armor, 40 MR, and 25 Omnivamp, except that plus 50%. So actually 60 armor, 60 MR, and 37.5% Omnivamp. So it can make your team very tanky if you want to run 7 Syndicate. And then again, what's really cool is you have that Omnivamp, so you don't need to build things like Gunblade or Hodge. You can go like full offensive items on your Akali and do some pretty crazy stuff. All right, Yordle. Yordle is a ton of fun. If you like rerolling, Yordle is for you, but it's not just a reroll comp. What's cool about Yordle is it's almost a second economy trait. Every time you have a combat, after a player combat, and you had 3 Yordles in, another Yordle will pop out onto your bench. So you'll just start generating more Yordles, more Yordles. So if you just want to run 3 Yordle in the early game, farm a few extra Yordles for some extra gold, and then get out. Cool. Now, it is weighted towards the lower end. I think the average expected value is like 1.3 gold per round. But that does mean you can also get Poppy and Ziggs 3-star pretty quick. But if you want to invest in this trait and go deep, you can go 6 Yordle. All the Yordle's abilities will cost 20% less to cast, and you can start trying to 3-star them. Now, once you 3-star a Yordle, let's say you 3-star Poppy, you will not generate any more Poppies. You'll start generating the other 5 Yordles. And so it's a really good way to get that full 3-star army of Yordles. Now, once you 3-star all of them, you'll have to see what happens. But yeah, definitely Yordles, like I said, if you want those 3-star Yordles, here they come. Sister. Sister is a special trait between Vi and Jinx, as they are sisters. Kind of like Exile and Fates, but basically it gives each of them a different power. Vi, who is a reprint of the Fates Vi, with a little bit more power, her fist usually only hits the front 2 rows, but that ability range extends. She can now hit the back line. She can punch the back line really far, making her a very deadly champion. And Jinx starts to go a little insane and gains 50% attack speed every time she scores a takedown that can stack. And so, let's say she kills 5 people at once, you just got 250 attack speed for 3 seconds. So Sister on Jinx can be pretty good. Alright, Arcanist is kind of like a mix between Sorcerer and Dusk. It kind of works like Dusk in that if you have 2 Arcanists, your whole team gets 20% ability power. Cool. If you've got 4 Arcanists, the Arcanists themselves gain an additional 40%. So now they're at 60%. And then that starts to scale. So 6, now it's your team gains 40 and the Arcanists are at 90. And then at 8, just everyone gets 120% ability power. So a lot of ability power. Now, unlike Dusk, though, these are all sort of caster champions that really want ability power. So you're not going to see a Riven or anything like that here. I think Swain's probably the closest. And Vex can do some tankiness too. But these are the casters of the set, if you will. Assassin. Assassins are back. They do what assassins do. They jump to the back line. They gain more crit. It's assassins. You've seen them enough. It's kind of one of the big reprints. Don't really need to talk about it. Assassins. Bruisers. A little bit of a twist on Brawler, basically, but the way it works is Bruisers actually give your whole team health. So if you're at 6 Bruiser, everyone on your team is gaining 500 health. The Bruisers themselves gain double that. So your whole team gains 500 health, and the 6 Bruisers gain 1,000 health. So just a really good way to pump up your team's health if you're looking for a pretty general frontline. Bodyguard. Bodyguards have increased armor, so kind of like Vanguard back in the day. They've got extra armor. But in addition, they will taunt adjacent enemies at the start of combat. Meaning you can actually place a bodyguard in the backline, kind of like a Zerat portal, and they will taunt the assassins that jump in. So they can take a lot of the focus and make themselves very tanky and do good things here. So a little bit of a twist there. All right, Colossus. Colossus are very interesting champions because they're big. They're so big, they count as 2 champions. So if you're level 4 and you have a Cho'Gath, you can only place 2 more things. They are big. They have inflated stats, they have inflated power, but they count as 2 champions. In addition, all Colossus are by default immune to CC. You cannot CC these guys. So if you hate being stunned a lot, play a Colossus. Then if you're willing to play 2 of them, which keep in mind you've taken 4 of your team slots, the Colossus will also take 25% less damage. And so again, Colossus have a lot of health. Give them a Gargoyle, Stoneplate, Bramble, Dragon Claw, run 2 of these guys, and you have a meat shield. So definitely a very interesting twist on big champions. All right, Challenger. Challengers are interesting in that they get a default amount of attack speed. And if they score a takedown, they will very quickly dash to their next target. It's really cool looking. Kind of like Cavalier, I suppose. But they dash real fast. And they double their attack speed bonus for 2.5 seconds. So if you're running 6 Challenger, whack, whack, they get a kill. They dash over and now have 150% attack speed. So pretty cool if you like that attacking fast. Enchanter. The healers of this time, kind of like Mystic, but again with a twist. Instead of it just being lots and lots of MR, it's less MR, but they also increase their healing and shielding. These champions all have heals and shields, so you can make, your Janna heal your team for a lot if you're running 5 Enchanter, for example. So if you're looking for that general support comp, Enchanters are it. And Orianna can do a decent chunk of damage as well, so there are some pretty cool Enchanter stall comps that then use that Archangels and do some pretty nutty things. Innovator. Innovator is the build-a partner this time. Your mech, A-bomb, Galio, whatever. But the twist this time is that each level of Innovator is a different beast here. So for example, 3 is Mechanical Scarab, 5 is the Mechanical Bear, and 7 is the Mechanical Dragon. Holy crap, you can actually have a dragon on your team. The other cool thing though here is, once you have 3 Innovator in, like, the Scarab appears. You can move him, you can position him and put him where you want. And so you can, like, a cool thing you can do, for example, is you could put these guys next to a Zeke's. You could put them in a Socialite Spotlight. They are normal units at that point. They cannot equip items, but you can do some pretty wonky stuff with that. They each also have their own spell. The Mechanical Scarab, for example, gives himself and an ally a Thorn Shield. The Mechanical Bear gives everyone on your team attack speed, and the Mechanical Dragon has a big AoE fear. So they each have their own spell, their own mana cost, but generally they're all meant to be extra frontline. They're meant to be more tank and utility than they are damage, so keep that in mind when building your team. Alright, Protector. Protector is back. Protector is a reprint. Basically, every time they cast a spell, they gain a shield equal to a maximum % of their health. 3-star Protectors gain very large shields. All of these guys have pretty high mana costs, so they're not going to gain very... they're not like the 60 mana Nikos from Galaxies or anything like that. But I will say that because of Tome of Traits, which is sticking around, the Protector emblem is a very powerful emblem. Put that on a 20 mana cost champion and whoo-wee. Yeah, Protector, real good. Real good. Scholar, your team gains mana every 2 seconds. Great if you want to accelerate your casts. Can be a fun trait as well. Giving your team 20 mana every 2 seconds can lead to some pretty wacky stuff if you want to go a full Scholar build. So yeah, Scholars, pretty fun. Sniper. Snipers deal bonus damage between each hex and themselves. You remember Sniper, it's a reprint. But basically, the further away the enemy is, the more damage they take. Sweet. And finally, Twin Shot. When a Twin Shot attacks, they have a chance to attack twice instead. This includes their spell. So, like, if they're casting a spell and you have 6 Twin Shot, they will cast it twice. So that can be pretty cool. Generally, that's if their spell is considered an attack. So, like, Gangplank is the best example of this. Gangplank will actually shoot 2 people with 6 Twin Shot. And finally, we have one more trait to cover that I think a lot of you aren't prepared for, based on what I've seen on the internet, and that is Mutant. Mutant's not quite what you're expecting, because Mutant is different every game. There are 7 possibilities of what Mutant could be, but every game you load into, it's different. So one game, Mutant might be Hyperadrenal Glands, where they have a chance to gain a bonus, 2 bonus attacks. But the next game, Mutant might be Synaptic Web, where all the Mutant's abilities cost less mana. And all of these should be familiar to any of you who have been playing TFT for a while. Things like Blade Master, Celestial, Astro, Cybernetic, Elderwood, Darkstar, and even Predator and Void. So there's a lot of crazy combos, and if you're somebody who really likes to play Mutant, you've got to be aware of what the Mutant trait is that game, and how to play around it. Like, I doubt you really want to go Malzahar carry when you've got the Hyperadrenal Glands version. So, definitely allows for some creativity here. Should be fun. Alright, that is it for traits. Let's talk champions. Now, I'm not going to go over every champion in great detail, but I'm going to do some quick highlights here. Caitlyn, reprint, has that long sniper shot that blows somebody up for like 2,000 damage. Camille, not a reprint. Camille's spell is she's a very tanky 1-cost, kind of like Aatrox But basically, she casts her spell, gains a shield, and while that shield's up, she can heal with her auto attacks. Darius, reprint, spins around, does damage, heals up. Pretty good. Ezreal, new champion, shoots his spell pretty quickly, has low mana cost, gains a bunch of attack speed. Pretty cool. Garen, not a reprint. This is a new Garen. Can carry AD items pretty well, does base damage on missing health, can also do a lot of damage tanky. Pretty surprising amount of damage from this guy. Graves, basically a reprint, shoots the cloud of smoke, disarms, does some good stuff. Alawi, not a reprint. She hits somebody with their spell, and then the more damage that person takes, the more she heals up. So pretty effective tank. Kassadin, not a reprint. New spell, Mono Reeves, provides a shield, so has a spell. Kind of cool champion. Poppy, not a reprint. This Poppy is different. This Poppy has a spell that does more damage based on how much armor Poppy has. So if you want to give Poppy a lot of armor, run like a bodyguard comp, get a bramble on them, you can get this Poppy to hit pretty hard, but it's one of the first champions that scales with armor. Singed, new champion. He's got the toss, throws people, stuns them, great times. Twisted Fate is a reprint, but with a twist. The mana cost is a lot lower. Instead of like 70, 80 like it was, it's all the way down to 45. So Twisted Fate can be a pretty cool spam caster. Twitch, assassin, does some good damage, jumps to the backline, the only ranged assassin, so can do some good stuff. And finally Ziggs, not a reprint, brand new spell, big AoE, does his ult, kind of low damage because he has a 1 cost, but Ziggs is special in that he's a 3 trait 1 cost, so fits into a lot of comps. Opens up a lot of early possibilities with Scrap, Yordle, and Arcanist. Scrap and Arcanist in particular are 2 pieces, so Ziggs can definitely open up your game on the early side. On the 2 cost, Blitzcrank, reprint, grabs. It's Blitzcrank, he's back. Get welcome to bringing back Blitzcrank bait. Katarina, brand new. Kind of similar to her Fates version. Low mana cost, spins around, it's like 40 mana. If she kills somebody with her spell, she gets 20 mana back. So very good user of blue buff. Very good user of blue buff. Kog'Maw, reprint. Casts a spell, gains infinite range, does % health damage. Good times. Lulu, reprint. You know, knocks everyone up, makes them big, gives them a lot of health. Tuned a little bit healthier, we hope. But yeah, Lulu can keep your team alive. Quinn, new champion. Basically has an AoE disarm. So, very good utility champion for both Mercenary and Challenger. Swain, new champion. Kind of like Vladimir, except 2 costs, so the spell can hit more targets. And the more targets it hits, the more he heals. So he can be a very good frontliner for both Imperial and Arcanist in the early game. Talon, new champion. Doesn't have a spell. When he autos them, they begin to bleed. That bleed happens over 6 or 7 seconds, so it's a lot of damage. Especially because with a Infinity Edge and Assassin, you can get that bleed to crit. So he just has a lot of passive damage. And every 3rd hit, he reapplies the bleed and stacks it. So this guy will eventually take down any target. A lot of passive damage, and that's all with Imperial as well. Tristana, new spell. This is not a reprint. Has the knockback. So the higher star level Tristana is, her spell will shoot a big shot and knock them back. Does scale with AD though, so this is an AD champion. Trundle, not quite a reprint, very similar, but steals a lot of AD from the champion. So actually kind of like an AD carry in the early game for both Scrap and Bruiser. Vi, as I mentioned, is a reprint. Got that big punch. Can be itemized well. Is balanced a little bit stronger than she was when she was a warlord. So pretty good. Warwick, new champion. Has no spell. Does passive % health damage. And then gains health every auto. So this guy loves attack speed. Loves being tanky. It's kind of like if Olaf and Kog'Maw had a baby. So does a lot. 3-star Warwick could be pretty fun. Zillion, new champion. Throws a bomb. The bomb stuns the person. And then the bomb goes off, applying attack speed slow. So very good utility champion. Finally, Zyra. Zyra is probably my favorite champion. This is not a reprint. What Zyra does is she picks a row with the most enemy champions and hits the entire row for damage and a stun. This is really cool because, like, let's say your enemy is foolish and has a full backline of snipers. She will hit all of them and stun all of them. So it opens up a pretty cool positioning game where it's like, if I know there's a strong Zyra on the other side, I probably don't want to fill the single row with all my champions. So Zyra's a really cool positioning spell. I'm really excited for her. On to 3 costs. Cho'Gath. Cho'Gath has a ton of health because he's a Colossus. And his spell is Bite, single target bite. Okay damage, not great to be honest. But if it kills, he gains a stack. And each stack increases his health by 2%. Now, at 1 star, he's capped at 10 stacks. At 2 star, he's capped at 20 stacks. But that's still plus 40% health on a champion that has, upwards of 2,000-3,000 health. So that can be a lot. 3 star, though, there is no cap. If you can get 3 star Cho'Gath and get him chomping, you can get this guy up to like 7k, 8k health. So the fantasy of stacking a very large Cho'Gath is real. And I'll just tell you right now, double Titan's Resolve on Cho'Gath, funniest thing. That guy is enormous. Echo, utility champion for assassins. Jumps in the backline, throws down his bubble or whatever it is, and everyone in the bubble is slowed attack speed, except for his allies who gain increased attack speed. So really good utility champion. Gangplank, single target AoE spell. So it's like 80 mana, shoots a guy for a bunch of damage. If it kills him, you get a gold. So if you want to give this guy, IE Deathblade BT and start popping fools, especially with Twin Shot, if you've got Twin Shot, he'll shoot twice. Each time you kill, you get a gold. And so you can actually farm gold with Gangplank. Heimerdinger, fairly low cost spell, shoots his rockets. Every 3rd time he casts, he shoots 3 rockets, like 3 big groups, does a lot of damage. So every 3rd shot, kind of like Karma, actually. But Heimerdinger can do a surprising amount of damage. Leona, frontliner, gives herself a shield and gives all nearby allies additional armor. So really helps the front line. Cool combo here is Leona giving Poppy armor, and then Poppy has more armor to do more damage with her spell. So that can be fun. Lysandra, kind of a reprint. Very similar to the OG Lysandra that would either freeze a target or freeze herself. But her AoE radius has been increased, and her damage has been increased, so she's much more of a threat. I love frontline Lysandra. Kind of reminds me of Morgana from Reckoning. So pretty cool champion there. All right, Malzahar, it's my boy. Giovanni's farewell gift to me. Malzahar is in the set. He's a 3-cost mutant alchemist. His spell is he dots somebody. If they die with the dot still on them, it spreads and resets. So you can get a lot of damage on this guy. If he casts again, he'll be sure to cast on somebody that doesn't already have the dot. And at 3 star, every time it spreads, it actually spreads twice. So Malzahar can do some fun stuff. I'm telling you right now, Hextech Gunblade Malzahar, that's my jam. Stay out of my lane. That's my thing. All right, Misfortune. Misfortune is a reprint. She does the AoE Rain, applies Grievous Wounds, does a decent chunk of damage. Really needs Sniper to do a lot of damage. She doesn't have Forgotten this time and is a mercenary. But, can do some pretty good damage with like a Shojin Death Cap kind of thing going on there. Samira. If you liked old Kindred, you're probably going to love Samira. Samira has 40 mana cost. And what's cool is basically she'll shoot a big spell. It's a very big AD spell. If it kills anyone, it will refund 20 mana. So she can start, blue buff repeated cast. And if there's anyone in melee range, instead of shooting, she'll swing her sword. Same amount of damage, but can actually hit multiple targets. So there's actually some argument to like frontline Samira can do some pretty wacky things. Shaco, reprint, doesn't have Darkstar this time, but he's that assassin that can drop aggro and pop around and be a little frustrating because that's what Shaco does. So watch out for Shaco. 3-star Shaco can be pretty scary. So, yeah. Taric, new champion, heals himself and an ally. So he's just kind of a support champion. Honestly, he's more a provider of his traits. But if you get a 3-star Taric with some tank items, he can heal a lot. So Taric's an interesting champion. Vex. Vex is also a tank. If you remember Annie from Fortune, like the 2-cost Annie, it's kind of like that, where she shields herself. If the shield survives after a certain amount of time, she will do a bunch of damage. If the shield breaks, she'll do less damage, but still do damage. And so Arcanist, Vex, for example, can have a very large shield that's then amped up by all the damage, give her some extra items, and Vex can be a crazy high damage frontliner for both Yordle and Arcanist. And finally, Zac. Don't underestimate Zac. He's a tank with some decent items, but he actually does a surprising amount of damage. And his spell is he'll grab 2 targets within range. He can't quite hit, like if he's in the front line, he can't quite hit the back line, but he'll grab 2 targets in range, smash them together, stun them for a bit, and do a pretty good chunk of damage. So Zac's not too bad. All right, 4 costs. Braum, our typical 4-cost AOE CC person. Braum slams his shield down, shoots a shockwave, everyone hits, stunned. So kind of like your Sejuani from Fates, if you will. He's your AOE CC guy. Very tanky, very good traits. Honestly, you can fit him in any comp, even if you're not running Syndicate. So, Braum. Mundo is probably the ultimate in survivability. Mundo's spell gives him a massive amount of health regen. And then at the end of it, if he's still alive, does a pretty good chunk of damage. But this guy with tank items, very hard to take down. Now, that being said, it is health regen. So if you can burst him down, not as great. But this guy can get a lot of effective health. If you don't have the damage, he will annoy the hell out of you. Fiora, not a 1-cost. Fiora has a kind of high damage spell, but basically once she hits it, she starts doing her old ult where she hits people at all 4 sides. If they die, she'll also move on to the next target, kind of like an Omni Slash, if you will. It also does bonus true damage, and she gains health during it. So it's a very high-powered spell. If you want a melee Fiora champion, don't underestimate Fiora. She's real good. Janna is back. This is kind of a reprint. It does her AoE heal. It knocks people back. So really good at protecting your backline from assassins. The one twist this time that makes her a lot better, though, is that she heals the entire map. She does not have, you don't have to be in range to get her heal. The heal will hit the entire map. So that makes her a lot more powerful than the last time she was here. Jhin, not a reprint. This is not the Jhin with no spell in every 4th shot. Jhin has a mana bar. When the mana bar fills up, he swaps into his sniper pose and will start shooting sniper shots. Those sniper shots can pierce, so he can do a lot of damage with this spell. And the 4th shot does even more damage and is guaranteed to crit. So Jin's spell does a lot of damage here, but now he has a spell. Lux, kind of a reprint, kind of based off her Rise of the Elements version. She casts her ult. It's a low mana ult spell. It's only 60. So it doesn't quite have the power of like an Aurelion Soul or a Vel'Koz, but you give her enough Academy and Archimist and it can get up there. If it kills, she gets 30 mana back. So give Lux, say, blue buff, Deathcap, Jeweled Gauntlet, and you can start seeing her get some resets, cast pretty quickly. Lux is sort of a premier rapid caster. Orianna, more expensive spell, but will shoot her ball towards an area, and all the enemies get disrupted, very much like a Diana ult, with a decent chunk of damage, and all the allies in the zone get shielded. So if you do a cool group up scenario where all your team is grouped up, you can provide a lot of shielding to your team and disruption on the enemy team because it does stun. So pretty cool. Seraphine, kind of like actually Ezreal from Fates. Basically, Seraphine shoots her ult, her wave, in a direction. Every enemy hit takes some damage and gets their attack speed slowed. Every ally hit gains some healing and also gains some attack speed. So she's very good premier buffing her team. So pretty cool champion. Sion. Sion is the one damage-based Colossus. A little bit lower health than the other Colossuses, but that spell hits like a truck. He does his big wind-up, and boom, and that thing hits really hard. Give this guy Jeweled Gauntlet, Imperial, Gunblade, and whew, gets pretty nutty. So don't underestimate Scion. There have been tests where he's pretty hard to beat. Urgot, pretty simple spell actually. Urgot gains a ton of attack speed. Or no, actually we adjusted it. So Urgot, basically what happens is every time he attacks, he's actually attacking like multiple times. So basically he's kind of like your ultimate attacker. Give this guy IE, Deathblade, and this guy just goes to town. Every time he ults, you're going to see tons and tons of attacks. This is basically the Draven of the set, if you will. The high AD, kill things down, really powerful champion. And with True Shot, that can be even crazier. So definitely keep that in mind. Finally, Yone. Yone is a pretty cool champion. Melee champion, slashes his sword. When his spell casts, he generates a clone of himself that goes to an enemy champion up to 3 hexes away. And the clone can't be targeted, so it's just an invisible clone you can't stop. That's also attacking and healing Yone. So basically it doubles Yone's damage for a while. So Yone can do a lot of good stuff with that. If you like melee carries, Yone's for you. Alright, that's a quick run through on all the 1 through 4 costs. Let's do a little bit more of a detailed breakdown of the 5 costs. Akali. Akali is a Syndicate assassin. As I mentioned, because she's Syndicate, you don't need to give her a Hodge or a Gunblade. You can run like 5 Syndicate, and she's got 25% Omnivamp. But what's really cool is Akali is like the most mobile, annoying assassin we've ever made. She will dash in a line towards the most enemies, hit them for damage, and marking them for 7 seconds. If they drop below a certain health, she basically gets a free cast and will dash through them again, dealing even more damage to the enemies she passes through. And as you see, her mana cost is pretty low. So she's dashing all over the map, doing damage. Then when people are hitting thresholds, dashing even more. It is really fun to see. This is a fun champion. Give her an IE, Death Cap, whatever you want for a 3rd item, and she can go to town. I will say she's one of those 5 costs that does need items. She's not one you want to just run traitless. She's probably one of the not great ones for that regard. But man, if you can invest in her, I think she's more fun than Kayn. So, Galio, probably the best tank in the game. Remember, he is a Colossus, so he counts as 2. But he provides Socialite, so you get your free Socialite Spotlight. He's a bodyguard. As you can see here, you can even kind of get a look at these stats here. He's got 1,800 base health at 1 star, 70 armor, 70 MR. Passively, every time he gets a critical strike, he slams the ground, doing AoE damage also. So he does a surprising amount of damage. And then his ult is basically almost like a Pantheon ult, if you will, but he jumps up off the screen, comes back down, hits a big AoE radius, and knocks them up. The cool thing about this is the lower health they are, the further knocked up they are. So they can actually be stunned very long based on how low of health they are. So pretty cool to see. Definitely check that out. He's a very good utility frontline champion. Jace. Jace is an interesting champion because he is a transformer. That's his unique form. Basically, if you put him in the front 2 rows, he switches to hammer form, and he is now a melee champion with a different spell. If you put him in the back 2 rows, he switches to his, his shooter gun, whatever you want to call it, and he's now a ranged champion with a different spell. I believe this spell we're looking at is the melee one. And so you can see here, passively he gains 50 armor and MR to help him be tankier. And then his spell, with only 60 mana, is he swings his hammer 3 times. 1, 2 side swipes, and then the big crash. Each doing a bunch of damage and shredding armor and MR. So Jace is very, very powerful in that regard. The ranged version, which you can't see here, passively he gains extra AD. So he doesn't have the armor and MR, but he has the AD. And then he shoots 3 shots, with the 3rd one being bigger, and gives his team extra attack speed. So either way you want to use him, he can be utility on the back line, cool front line, pretty cool champion. Not the flashiest spell, but pretty powerful. Alright, Jinx. Jinx, the star of the show, if you will. Jinx's spell is Super Mega Death Rocket. Just like her recall, she hops on her rocket, rides it off the top of the screen, then it comes crashing down, doing a bunch of magic damage, igniting the ground on fire, and anyone standing in the fire, ally or friend, takes damage. Most of the damage is on the big explosion, little less on the burn, so you're not going to hit your allies too much. But then in addition, once she does that, she can only cast her spell once. Then she switches to her rocket launcher, and then from there, she's dealing a much larger percent of her AD, and it's an AoE shot. So, you give her like IE Jeweled Gauntlet Hodge, and she will have a big-ass spell that crits, come down, start shooting rockets that are doing massive damage, and healing that all up. Jinx is so fun as a carry. And again, all that combined with like Twin Shot, she'll shoot even faster. Or Sister, well, she'll get that bonus attack speed. Do not sleep on Jinx. She is a very powerful champion. Kaisa, not a reprint. This Kaisa is very different. I think this Kaisa is probably the best Morello user in the game, if you want to go that route, because very quickly you'll notice she's at 75 out of 125 and has a 1.2 attack speed, so she attacks fast. Then when she ults, she dashes to a safe spot and shoots everybody. It's spread perfectly evenly, but she'll always hit every enemy. She'll shoot 15 missiles, and then each one's doing 100 base damage, which isn't that much. But each time she casts, she gains an extra missile for every time she auto-attacked. So let's say, for example, she has to do 5 autos to cast once, then ults, that's 20 missiles, then another 12 autos to cast again. Now we're going to be at 32 missiles. And so every time she casts, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So if you can keep her alive long enough, it can do really well. So she loves Ginsu's, she loves AP. She's also somebody who really likes Quicksilver, because if she gets stunned, it really slows her down. But kind of an interesting champion. And so like I said, the optional route is just give her a Morello. She can be a Morello applier. The other route is invest in her heavily, and eventually she'll just blow up the entire team. So, pretty flashy champion. Okay, Tahm Kench. Tahm Kench is a glutton. Once per turn, you may feed him anything from your bench. You can feed him out. Basically, you take a champion and go, here, Tahm Kench, eat it. The stronger the champion, the higher the gold cost of the champion, the more permanent stats he gains. For example, if you give him a 1-cost Garen, he might gain 5 AD. You give him a 1-cost Jace, he might gain 20 AD. You give him a 3-star, 3-star Shaco, he might gain 50 AD. And so you can feed him stats and pump him up. So getting him early is really fun, because you can keep making him bigger and bigger and bigger. Personally, I think you should be giving him anything that gives him AP. Some people on the team like to make him tankier. But you'll see why I think it's AP in a minute. But yeah, make him, feed him, make him bigger. He's a glutton. Then, in addition, his spell is fairly simple. It's a single target spell, 60 mana, so pretty cheap. And he will go up to his target and devour them. They're now in his belly, out of combat, can't be targeted. And they will start taking damage over time. You can see here it's 800 damage over 3 seconds. Very high base damage at 1-star. 1500 at 2-star. This thing hurts. I personally love giving Tahm Kench like Jeweled Gauntlet Deathcap Gunblade, because every time he eats, he heals right back up and does a ton of damage. So single target bite, heals up. If they doesn't kill him, he'll spit them out far away and try again. But if he does kill them, here's what happens. If he kills somebody by eating them, and they have no items on them, he will spit out their gold value. So if he eats a 3-star shake or a Shaco and kills the Shaco with no items, he will spit out 3 gold. Cool. If they have items, he will spit out one of the components they were wearing. So for example, if you have an IE Shaco and you eat it and kill it, you might get a glove or a sword. This is also true of spatulas. You can even get spatulas this way. So Tahm Kench, make him big, have him eat a bunch, can do some pretty cool stuff. Great way to farm late game items. Love this guy. I expect you'll see a lot of Tahm Kench on PBE. Victor. Victor is the ultimate big caster. I think by the time you see this, the spell will have changed a little bit. But generally the idea here is he is the big 140 mana. You want to give him a Shojin. But man, when this spell casts, lasers are flying everywhere, teams are dying. This thing does a ton of damage, and very good against enchanters, because if they're shielded, it does even more damage. So extra damage to shielded units. So Victor is your big caster of the game. If you want enemy teams to blow up, get yourself a Victor. Finally, we have Yumi. Yumi is a very interesting champion. She has her own trait called Cuddly, which basically says at the start of combat, she attaches herself to the nearest ally. Or if she's not currently attached, after 2 seconds, she'll reattach. Every time she reattaches, she grants them a shield equal to 75% of her max health, which means Yumi is very good with Warmogs. Give Yumi a Warmogs, you've just made your Cuddly shield even bigger. Once the shield breaks, Yumi detaches. So the shield breaks, Yumi detaches, 2 seconds pass, she reattaches. While attached, she's untargetable, so you can't kill her while she's attached, making her very survivable. She gains 5 mana per second while attached, and 10 mana whenever the ally attacks. So a really cool combo, for example, is like put her on Kaisa. Kaisa's attacking like crazy, Yumi's gaining mana like crazy. Then Yumi has her ult, 200 mana, so it's a very expensive ult, but she shoots off 4 waves or 5 waves at 2-star towards the furthest enemy. Each wave deals damage and stuns for 0.75 seconds, meaning if you hit with every wave, it can be a very long stun. So this is a very cool spell, very high utility. Yumi is probably the most flexible of the 5 costs. You know, even itemless, throw her in, you get that big AOE CC, you're powering up your teammates with shields. So Yumi's very flexible. And then tack that all on, she's Scholar, so she can generate her team even more mana. And then even if you have like Academy, she can generate like a surprising amount of damage, actually. So I expect you'll see a lot of cats. All right, that's every champion. That's every trait. Pretty detailed breakdown. Now we got to talk about the set mechanic. So let's talk about Hextech Augments. So here's what Hextech Augments look like. Basically 3 times over the course of the game. Currently that is stage 1-4, 3-3, and 4-5. You will be presented with a choice that looks like this. 3 Hextech Augments will appear on your screen, and you will be asked to pick one. You can see here the player has to either choose between High Roller, which gives them loaded dice, Cybernetic Implants, which gives them HP and AD on anyone that's wearing an item, or Exiles, where anyone who's standing by themselves at the start of combat gains a shield. So it's an interesting choice. It's up to you. Okay. So each time, choose an augment. Each game, you will have 3 augments. There will be 3 augments per game. There are 3 tiers of augments. Silver, which is our lowest powered augment and the one you'll see most frequently. Here's an example. First Aid Kit. All healing and shielding on your units is increased by 35%. Makes Bloodthirster a lot better. Gunblade. Makes Enchanters better. You know, gives you that option. Gold tier, which is something like Trade Sector here. You might remember Trade Sector from Galaxies, where every turn you'll gain a free refresh. So, pretty cool. And Prismatic. Prismatic is the rarest, the one you will not see often, but they are definitely the most transformative. Here, for example, you have one that says, when you buy experience points, you gain an additional 4, so it's like you press the button twice, and you can reach level 10. So imagine you get that one at 1-4, you will level up in a much different way than you've ever experienced before, and be able to reach level 10 if you're willing to spend the gold into it. So definitely can be very transformative. So again, silver tier, gold tier, prismatic tier. Each time you're presented a choice, I'm going to go back a slide for a second, they will always all be the same tier. So you'll either be presented with 3 silvers, 3 golds, or 3 prismatics, and every player will be the same quality. So in this case, every player saw 3 gold augments. Every player did not see the same 3 gold augments, but every player saw 3 gold augments. So that's kind of how it works. There are, you know, a bunch of choices. So here's the twist. Oh, one more thing before we get to the twist. On your board, you will actually see what we call a Hextech Core. Everyone has a Hextech Core on their board. It doesn't take up a spot. But you can see here that it shows you what Hextech Augments you have. You can right-click it, And then you can actually mouse over these to see descriptions. So you will be able to see what other augments people chose. You can take a look at them, you can inspect them, and you can see why do they have so much HP? Oh, it's because they have cybernetic implants. Makes sense. And you can adjust that. So, here's the twist. Here's where I think me and the team are the most excited for you guys. Because here are some examples of augments. Tier 1s, Tier 2s, Tier 3s. There are 60 different silver tiers. There are 47 different gold tiers. And there are 43 different prismatic tiers. Meaning, day 1 of PBE, there will be 150 different augments to choose from. Meaning, there are more than 3 million different combinations of augments that you may have on any given game. And you can see some examples here. Some are as simple as gain a random completed item in a Reforger, or when your team has fewer units alive than your opponent, gain some health. Rich Get Richer is a favorite of mine. You get 10 gold and now can gain up to 7 interest. Gain a Bruiser emblem. Gold, and then you have the prismatic ones. Your team counts as having +2 Academy. Or Golden Ticket, every time you refresh, you have a 35% chance to gain another refresh, and that can proc itself, leading to some pretty crazy rolldowns. But yeah, there are a lot of combinations. So I'm not going to sit here and list all 150 augments. There are probably other content creators out there that have given you the full list. You can probably check them out on websites. But generally, these are not the kind of thing you can go into a game going, I'm going a Rich Get Richer game. Because there are so many, it might be a long time before you ever see that. This is going to force you to adapt to the augments you get, play based on them, and make the right choices and build the right teams around them. I will say there are rules in the system to help you. So let's say, for example, you're running 7 Syndicate. The game is not going to give you a bunch of Bruiser emblem choices. That's not going to happen. But generally, it's pretty random. So honestly, it should be a lot of fun. I hope you guys look forward to it because, my God, this mechanic is wild. So combine that with all the wild traits and all the wild champions you saw. I think you're going to have a ton of fun. So yeah, that's Hextech Augments. Again, if you want to see the full list, go check out other content creators. But like I said, get in there, get playing, try them out. There's a lot of fun ones. I can't wait for you to try them out. And that's it. That is the quick rundown of PBE, Gizmos, and Gadgets. I hope you guys are looking forward to it. A lot of fun traits, Hextech Augments, a lot of stuff. Obviously, it's PBE. We're going to be iterating. We're going to be fixing bugs like crazy. Give us your feedback. Tell us what's broken. Tell us what's not. Balancing this is going to be a big challenge. Lot to do there. But yeah, we're really looking forward to it. It's going to be a blast. Hope you guys have a lot of fun with this set. And yeah, again, the team worked their butt off. Shout out to every team member who's been working on this set, whether it be the art team, the engineering team, the QA team, the design team, you know, the production staff, everyone. My God, we all worked our butts off to make sure this hopefully is one of the best sets ever. So yeah. All right, that's going to do it. Hope you guys are having a blast. I think this is coming out Monday. PBE should be up the next day. Should be a lot of fun. Can't wait for you guys to try it. All right, that's going to do it for me. Until PBE, take it easy.